Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to our podcast today. These podcasts are brought to you in part by our sponsors, who really truly are what make these podcasts possible every week. O'Fallon Nutrition is a company that I've worked with for over 15 years. They're independently owned and operated, located here in O'Fallon, Missouri, right off of Highway K and Mexico Road. I call this place the Whole Foods of St. Charles County, but even if you are not located on this side of the river, it is still worth the drive. I can remember working all the way down at Powerhouse and still sending people out to O'Fallon Nutrition for their supplements. They are more than a supplement company. You can get grass-fed beef, salad dressing, seasoning for your cooking, hair care products, makeup, deodorant, toothpaste, essential oils, and all the vitamins and minerals that you can think of. If you're looking for clean, whole food nutrition, as well as home care, house care, skincare products, O'Fallon Nutrition is your place. You can take a look at them at o'fallonnutrition.com, or if you'd like to have something shipped, if you're listening to me from outside of St. Louis, you can certainly have items shipped. I know they do free shipping if it's an order over $50, and the phone number is 636-240-5283. Again, it's o'fallonnutrition.com. As well as if preparing your food on a weekly basis is your primary excuse for why you're not able to stay on a good, clean eating program, which is something that I hear very regularly from my clients, I would ask you to please take the time to check out Pure Plates. It's pureplatesstl.com. They are a phenomenal place. We get our food from there during the week. They deliver to our Integrity location. They will deliver to your house. They also are just available for pickup. You can go to their Chesterfield location or their Kirkwood location and just pick up meals for the day, as well as just having them delivered right to your door. So if preparing your food is your main excuse for why you cannot stay on a healthy eating program, then I would suggest just stop by Pure Plates. Just try it. If you're trying to lower your blood pressure, you're trying to lower your cholesterol, you're trying to get your blood sugar down, try to do Pure Plates meals for a week and just see how different you feel. These are organic meals. They are gluten-free. If you need them to be, they can be dairy-free. They are soy-free. You're not taking any processed sugars or meat-curing agents or preservatives. They really, truly believe in nutrient-dense meals that are just whole food nutrition. And I've had my clients, or I've made recommendations for my clients for years at Pure Plates. It's pureplatesstl.com, or you can call them to ask questions at 636-778-3555. Again, remembering that they have a location in Chesterfield as well as in Kirkwood that you can just run by and pick up a meal today. Everyone always asks me where I get my meat from, and given that I really eat meat on a daily basis, typically beef primarily, my meat is very important to me. I have an autoimmune condition and I want grain-free, corn-free meat, and I just haven't found the confidence in stores in knowing that I'm getting 100% grass-fed, grass-finished beef. And I have searched and searched and searched for the right farm, and I have found the farm. It's fedfromthefarm.com, fed, F-E-D, from thefarm.com. These farmers are amazing. It's a family. They're here in Missouri, and they have the desire, just like I do, to see people well and to see people healthy, and they put a lot into what they do. It's such a wonderful family to support. They do offer 100% grass-finished, grass-fed, meaning that's it. A beef, and I get my ribeyes, I get my ground beef, my ground sirloin, I get my chuck roast. I mean, they basically have everything. They even have awesome jerky, but they also have eggs, they have chickens, and they have turkey. I'm planning on getting a turkey for Thanksgiving, and if you'd like lamb, they have that as well. But if you are in need of good quality grass-fed, grass-finished beef, or quality eggs, chicken, turkey, don't just settle for what you're getting at the local store. to go out on the internet and check out Fed from the Farm. That you can arrange a pickup or you can have it delivered to your home. And I can guarantee you're going to taste the difference. For me, my health actually depends on it. So I really thank God to have found such a great farmer. Fedfromthefarm.com. I hope it blesses you.
Welcome to Faith, Fuel, and Fitness, the Integrity Way, with your hosts, John and Debbie Morris from Integrity Training Systems.
Hey everybody, this is John and Debbie Morris with Integrity Training Systems on Real Talk 93.3. So excited to have you with us today. We like to start our segment by first talking about what it means to be a warrior. And I give the definition every week, and that is a brave or experienced soldier or fighter. And the reason the oars are so important is because you don't have to be brave and you don't have to be a soldier. You just have to be experienced and you have to be a fighter. And I don't know anybody that's not an experienced fighter. All that means is that you've had something tough in your life and that you've gotten through it. We met with some friends of ours. Well, I call them friends. At this point, we literally met them last week. And they feel like family. And they have a little daughter, and she is, how old is Rosie? Is she 4?
She's pre-K.
Okay, yeah.
So
young.
Signing her up for kindergarten.
Young.
No, this year I think she gets signed up for 5.
But
I think she's 5.
She was born at half term, right? It was half. She was very, very, very early.
1.5 pounds.
Very early. Yeah, 1.5 pounds, and had to be ICU for months, and then something ended up going wrong with her mom because of the situation. They really had to fight through. So my point in this story is sometimes you even have been a fighter and have experience to consider yourself a warrior before you're even old enough to know that you're fighting, and so whatever you've been through, if you've overcome it and you're looking at something right now thinking, wow, this is the worst thing I've had to ever look at in my life to overcome. You've done that before. You've looked at something, and I can recall times. It's kind of funny. We were on vacation here recently, and I was doing some thinking about different things, and I was thinking about some difficulties with our business, some stuff that we were working through, and they're tough times and things to overcome, and putting my head together with Debbie, and I started finding myself getting a little anxious, pretty anxious. And I had a day on vacation where I almost didn't enjoy the day. And then I started laughing at myself because it's dude, you've been shot at. You've held people that are dying. You've had a dog try to kill you while someone was shooting at you. You've been in 2 pretty serious standoffs. You've been hit by a car. You've been stabbed. And I start running through this list of stuff. Okay. And I'm not trying to take away from where I am and the stress that I'm dealing with, but I had to take a minute and be those were pretty crappy situations. And in those moments, I thought, this is the worst thing I've ever dealt with. I don't like being stabbed. I don't like being hit by a car. Am I going to survive this? I'm getting jumped by multiple people. My backup isn't there yet. This guy's got a gun. Is he going to shoot me? Is he going to shoot himself? Those were pretty bad. Okay. And so it's not even to take away from what I deal with now, because the business owner is also tough. So if you're someone that's listening, wow, John's been stabbed, that is way worse than my situation. That's not the point of this. It's not worse than your situation. Your situation is your situation, and you are where you are, and your stress is real. So don't take away from it, because if you diminish it and you pretend like it's not real and you bury it, it's just going to continue to haunt you. But what I'm telling you is to take it on face on. So what I had to do is I had to look at this and say, not, oh, well, that was so much worse, deal with the work stuff. I looked at it and said, I overcame that, and that was really hard. So I can overcome this as well, no matter how hard it is, because I'm more than a conqueror. And the Bible tells me that. And we were at a church while we were in Florida, and the pastor, he was on fire. At one point I told Deb, I'm going to start shadow boxing and doing push-ups. I'm just going to do push-ups out here because I've got energy and I'm ready to fight, and I'm going to fight some demons, and they're going to know that I'm dangerous because
New Life Church.
Yeah. And
New Life Church, and it's Santa Rosa.
Yeah. And so I was I'm going to start doing squats. I'm going to throw this chair at the wall. I was pretty fired up.
Ow.
That doesn't seem like it makes sense.
Oh,
in a church.
Well, to be fair,
Don't throw chairs at the wall.
To be fair, I didn't do it.
Push-ups, fine.
Okay. I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't do it.
No chairs.
But I was ready for war, and he was talking about, like, he said, put the rod to it. And he was talking about in the Bible when Moses, who was said to believed to have a speech impediment historically, and he's leading all of these people. Basically, he's liberating an entire country, an entire race of people. And he's talking to God, and he's basically like, look, like, I can't do this. Like, why me? Like, what the heck? And so you look at all of the things that he's told to put the rod to. I mean, he puts the rod to escaping and bringing these people to freedom. He puts the rod to a sea that literally parts the sea. And the concept of this message was that the word of the Bible is the rod. And if you sincerely and truly put it to your situation, not talking about just praying, Lord, make this easier, Lord, take this away. I'm talking about faith with works to overcome something. You apply the Bible and you're like, this situation is nothing. Like, I'm going to crush this situation because I am more than a conqueror. God has told me to put the rod to it. I can take this thing on. Where your breaking point is where God's building point is. So when you feel like this is it, you can't take anymore, you can't do this, I assure you can. You just have to look for the strength in the right place. And so his message was so good because I'm like, I don't do that. Like, I pray for things to get easier. I pray for other things I want. But I was talking about bench press is a very simple, like, especially man-oriented movement. You like, someone meets a big guy and like, what's your max? And it's like, what's my max what? Like, bench press. Like, it's always what's your max bench press is like the first bro question, And like, I don't know, I haven't maxed out in 30 years. But bench press, for instance, if you come to me and you're like, hey man, I want a 500-pound bench press. Can you give me a 500-pound bench press? I'm not going to put you under 500 pounds. I might put you under 100 or 150, like whatever you are capable of at that time. Okay. But then I'm going to put you at 160, which is going to be really hard for you. And you're going to think you can't do it, but you can do it. Okay. But you're going to be under that weight and you're going to want me to take it off you. You're going to be like, this is too heavy. I'd like to get out from underneath here. Please don't have me do this. I'm like, whoa, you asked for a 500-pound bench press, man. Like, what do you mean you don't want to be under 160? I know it sucks. I know it's hard. I know it's tough, but like, this is how we get to 500. On the same note, I'm not going to put you under 500 pounds because it will crush you. So whatever you're dealing with, acknowledge that you've probably prayed for something that's too big for you. You've probably asked for something that is bitten off more than you can chew. So what has actually been given to you is the work that you have to also have faith put to get you where you're wanting to go. And so it's always interesting. As a business owner, I recall us having a employee at one point, and they asked for more money. They needed more money, so we came up with work for them. We were like, okay, like, we don't really need this work done. Like, these are tasks that I handle very efficiently and quickly, and I don't pay myself for. So the company keeps that money, but like, this person needs money, right? So here's some work. So we give them the work. They're elated. They're excited. They're going to make more money. And inside of about 2 months, it gets around to us that they're telling multiple people that they're driven like a slave and they work too much and they work too hard and we expect too much and we're hard on them. And it's like, now, wait a minute. Like, you actually came to us and you asked for more money. If you want more money, how did you not feel like you would work more for that? Now, that's not saying we don't give our employees raises. We absolutely do that. But in this person's specific, wasn't time for that. So we came up with tasks that weren't even required to prepare them to make more money. So when you're praying for something and you're asking for something and you're believing for something, ask yourself, like, is what I'm doing actually going to get me where I want to go? And another thing is, we were listening to a preacher online. No, we were listening to him in person. And I mentioned this the last time we were on the show. And it was Dr. Don Davis. And he said that what you do when you think God has left you hanging kind of defines who you really are. Because you might be like, why, God? Why am I hanging here? And he related that to Jesus, who they believe hung on the cross for 8 hours. And he probably wanted off the cross in the first 30 seconds. But while he was up there, instead of telling everybody how bad his situation was, he looked to the guy to his side and said, you'll be with me and my Father in heaven, because that guy asked for it. How easy would it have been to be like, shut up, man. I'm being crucified right now. I'm not interested in where you're going for eternity. So when you're hanging, like, how are you handling it? That's what makes you a warrior. The whole point of the warrior mentality isn't being tough. It's not about the grit. I mean, it is, but it's about deciding to have that. It's just a decision.
In spite of difficulties, it's how you handle yourself in spite of the challenges that life presents. For more information on what we do at Integrity Training Systems with a 6-month nutrition program or a free personal fitness assessment with any of our personal trainers, take a look at integritytrainingsystems.com or give us a call at 636-299-2208. For gluten-free, dairy-free baked goods delivered to your door from my personal bakery, take a look at sophiesbakery.com. And for 100% grass-fed beef, the only meat that the Morris family will eat, take a look at fedfromthefarm.com.
Welcome back, everybody. This is John and Debbie Morris with Integrity Training Systems on Real Talk 93.3. Just kind of got done talking to you about what it meant to be a warrior. And you know what's fascinating is I find so many people nowadays talk about humility. Like, it's actually really commonly talked about. And I don't know. Maybe I just didn't have as many conversations about humility up until here recently, but it's like a hot topic. People being humble right now with everything that they're doing, everything that they're overcoming, you know, what they do for a living. The problem is it doesn't actually feel like humility. It feels like people don't believe in themselves anymore. And so what happens is these people, they're like, you know, it's like you give them a compliment, and instead of being like, thank you, they immediately feel like they either have to diminish it, like, no, not me. Like, no, I can't. Or they turn it right back on you. Like, oh gosh, no, but you're so much better at that than me. Here's the thing. It's good to give return compliments, and it's good to be humble, but it's also good to receive compliments. It's good to acknowledge where you are and that you're capable of what you're capable of. And I'm going to have Debbie talk about this, but we recently had a preacher talk about that. And then she's been doing some studies on like acknowledging your skill set and that how capable you are, like finding your identity and how good you are at what you do instead of just doing what you do. Well, yeah, I'm just at this or I'm just at that. And one thing that I've thought about a lot lately is expectation. And so when you talk about expectation, let's say you're really good at something. Okay, like Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was a phenomenal basketball player, right? He was really hard on his teammates. He set a standard that was very high to his teammates, and his teammates won a lot of championships because of it. But he didn't expect them to be as good as him. And so the reasoning for that is if you have an expectation that everybody's going to be as good as you, that means one of two things. One, you're actually taking your skills for granted and not acknowledging how good you are at something because you think everybody should be that good. Or two, you're expecting that everybody should be good at everything and they don't have skill sets that they're going to be better at and then potentially not as good at the ones that you are. So Deb, talk a little bit about that. Talk a little bit about identity. Tell us a little bit about what you've been studying on and what you have been thinking about with that.
Well, in the Arete group, you know, that I participate in, that's with Ed Milet and Andy Frisilla. Ed Milet had a message, and you know, I really enjoyed this week's message, but I enjoy every message that he does.
Yeah.
But one thing that he said was, have your skills increased faster than your identity?
Yeah.
And that really hit home with me because, my skills have increased a lot over the past 5 to 10 years, and I don't talk about it. I think that we compare ourselves a lot because of social media.
Yeah.
And so what we see on social media, I'm even in this Arete group, and I'm comparing myself to Andy Frisella because he's been in business for 25 years, and I've been in business for 25 years. I'm 50 years old, and I don't know, I think he's like 44 or 45.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I should be where Andy Frisella is. Why am I not where Andy Frisella is?
Right.
I'm doing something wrong if I'm not, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm not trying to run First Form, and I'm not trying to run a supplement company. I'm trying to run this ministry of health and healing. Doesn't mean I can't increase, but yet I'm over here comparing myself.
Yeah,
right?
to a completely different situation.
Totally different. And so listening to Ed, and having him basically just call me out and say, has your identity caught up with your skills, basically? And what I took that as is, am I claiming the victory that I've actually achieved in Christ through all of this hard work, all of this preparation, all of this time, all of this commitment, and then all of these results that I've helped in combination with Jesus, I've helped people to achieve through all these years. So, studying brain health coaching through the Amen Clinic, studying Chinese medicine, studying, nutritional therapy through Chinese medicine, studying functional nutrition health based out of functional medicine, studying the path, all of these skills have made it to where I have elevated my ability to heal. And then I've also elevated my ability to run a business by learning from these folks, right?
Well, I'm the only one that talks about your certifications. That's the thing is you never.
I don't
talk
even
about
list them. Yeah, I don't even list them. I don't even know if they are listed anywhere, to be honest with you.
I don't think so.
It just isn't what I try to press on people. So I got to thinking, my identity is not linked to my skills, and I'm probably not benefiting anybody by that.
Right.
And I have to get to a point to where I recognize how far I've come,
right,
how many people I've helped over 25 years,
right,
how much I've accomplished, how many lives I've changed and saved, and what is that going to do? That's going to produce a forward trajectory that's going to take our business to a next level, not just for my pocketbook, but for the lives that can be changed because of that.
Yeah.
The doors that will open will be bigger, they'll be wider, and that means that more people will be able to enter and experience those same life changes.
Yes.
And so I have to be caught up to that. And so what I guess I want, the people listening to understand is you do as well. You've made some mistakes with your food. You've made some mistakes with your commitments. You've not kept your commitments to yourself, but you also have. You've had periods of time where you did stay committed. You've had great seasons. You're looking at the bad season and you're feeling like you're seeing the bad choices and you're feeling shame, but you've had a lot of really great choices and you've had some good seasons. And so you've got to line your identity, your focus, and your future up with those seasons, with those moments, with all of those choices, not with the bad. And you're going to continue to take the steps in the direction of furthered healing, furthered health, and furthered promise and hope if you align your thinking that way. And I want to talk about this more in relation to healing, in relation to health, in the next segment. But I just want you to understand that if you don't change the way you view your identity, no one else will. And if you don't have a state of expectation where you expect great things to happen in your life and in your health and in your future, they're not going to happen. It's up to you, and it's up to your mindset, and it's up to your thinking. Align it with God. Align it with His thinking. Align it with what He wants for your life, and everything will change. For more information on what we do at Integrity Training Systems with a 6-month nutrition program with myself or a free personal fitness assessment with our personal trainers, Take a look at integritytrainingsystems.com or give us a call at 636-299-2208. For gluten-free, dairy-free, healthy baked goods delivered to your door from my personal bakery, take a look at sophiesbakery.com. And for 100% grass-finished beef, the only meat that the Morris family will eat, and they have chicken, turkey, and eggs as well, take a look at fedfromthefarm.com.
Welcome back, everybody. This is John and Debbie Morris with Integrity Training Systems on Real Talk 93.3. We were just talking a lot about identity, like finding your identity. And I think that a lot of times it's interesting. I mentioned the word humility. You know, people want people to have humility checks, like they need to be humbled. But sometimes I think we also have to have insecurity checks. Like, hey, man, you're actually really good at that. Like,
right.
you know, and it goes beyond just being like, hey, no, don't be that way in yourself. You're good on that. It's like, no. Like the same way you have to humble someone, you look them in the face, you're like, take that. Like, take that compliment. You are that good. Look at what you've accomplished. Look at what you've overcome. Like, you have to claim that. Quit walking around and talking about how bad you are, how bad things are. Like, your body and your mind hear that. Like, quit doing that. Start actually thinking about yourself as an overcomer, you know? And so, you know, Debbie was talking about all these people she's helped heal, you know, and all these people she's, you know, helped stop being sick. And again, it's easy to be like, well, you know, I didn't do that. You know, God did all of that. Or be like, well, no, I'm not very good at that. But here's the thing. I have a shirt that used to say this. I'm very combat minded. It's got a rifle on the front of it. And it says, this is just a tool. And then on the back, it says, I am the weapon. And so what I love about that is what it's saying is like that gun isn't what's dangerous. That gun adds to danger, but what's dangerous is it being in my hands. God uses us the same way. God's the weapon. God's the worker. God's the implementer, but we're the tools. And so he uses us as a conduit, but we have to be the right tool. You know, he's not going to use somebody that's made to rake the ground to shovel. He's not going to use you if you're meant to be a shovel to trim the bushes, right? Like, that's not how tools work. If you're being applied somewhere and you're putting your heart and your soul into it and you're accomplishing tasks, you deserve credit for that because you are the tool that God has chosen to use to accomplish that task. So while giving glory to God, you have to also look at yourself and be like, wow, he has really empowered me with this gift. I'm going to press into this. And that's something that I know Deb wants to talk about, is actually acknowledging that you're capable of doing the things you're called to do.
Well, first of all, if your mind, you know, if my mind, you know, starts thinking I'm not good enough, if my mind thinks, you know, I'm not the best at this, who am I going to help with that mindset?
Right.
And so, I mean, humility is great. I don't go online and say, I'm the best. I'm the best. Come to me. I'm the
Right.
best. I've never done that once. I don't ever do that.
Yes.
You know, I don't even go online and say, I did this for this person. I celebrate the person
Yes.
and their hard work and their effort.
Yes.
And I say the food did that.
Yes.
But if you don't believe it inside you, if you don't, you got to think of the impact. What are you doing for the kingdom? Are you bringing the kingdom with you? That's what was stated at church yesterday. If you don't believe in yourself and you're so humble in your mind, you know, you're not helping. You're not fulfilling the call.
Don't confuse meekness with weakness.
Exactly.
It's one thing to be meek,
That's so
but if
good.
you walk around not believing in yourself, you're
Yes.
just weak, and no one is helped by someone who's weak. So change the script, acknowledge your strength, use your strength, and let the humility be that you don't go out and brag, but you are willing to state what you're capable of, because then people know that you're strong enough to help them with that.
Yesterday we visited Faith Chapel in O'Fallon. It's a phenomenal church. If you have not, you know, if you're looking for a church home, I'm just going to give a little shameless plug here. It was a fantastic church. First of all, the church is gorgeous.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how to explain it. It's like I want to live inside it. It's like how I would decorate my home.
Yeah.
It was just a gorgeous church. I'm in the bathroom like, these doors are amazing. Or, the flooring's amazing. Just a gorgeous church. But those pastors are on fire.
Yeah.
So if you don't feel like your flame is as high as what it used to be, make sure you're getting the message from someone who is on fire.
Yes.
And who is fanning your flame.
Yes.
So yesterday, Pastor Brad Riley at Faith Chapel, he said, healing is not a promise. It is a command. And something went through me. It started at my shoulders and went all the way down my intestines. And then it went all the way down both of my legs. And I kind of jumped a little bit because it was actually kind of painful. It was like a fire burning, and it went all through my body. When he said that, I mean, he was just preaching. He didn't know. He didn't shoot a flaming arrow at me or anything, but he did.
Kind of.
And so, I don't know, maybe my body was healed at that moment. Maybe there was something in there that needed healing. But what happened is it lit a fire in my mind. And what that told me was, okay, this isn't a promise. This is a commandment. I have been commanded to help heal people.
Yeah.
We all have. In fact, we've been commanded to have the type of faith that we can believe that if we lay hands on the sick, that it can be done. It can actually happen. Well, I took that a whole different direction, and I realized, I am not the person that is going to give you the message that it's okay to have the poison every now and again. You know why? I care. I care too much. I care too much about your health. I care too much about your life. I care too much about your kids. I care too much about your future. I care about the call that God has on your life. And when you're walking around poisoned and toxic and you can't get out of the rut of the anxiety and the depression and the attention deficit and the bipolar and all of the different dealing with, you can't get out of the rut of the autoimmune issues, the rheumatoid arthritis, the lupus, the MS. You can't get out of it, and you're getting ready to take on another medication and another medication. I am not your person to hear the message that you can go ahead and still continue to have those toxins.
Yeah.
I am the person that has a flaming arrow that I want to shoot out into the universe and say, it's a commandment that we take on this healing journey. And I want you to understand that it's possible to heal your body.
Yes.
You don't have to find yourself taking on more medications. You can change the way you live, and you can change the way you eat.
Right.
And it can change everything.
Yeah.
I have watched for 25 years a woman with MS that was literally ready for a wheelchair-bound life. And now I don't even know if they think she still has MS.
Right.
A woman just completely riddled hives all over her body, and nothing she could do would make it better. They kept putting her on more and more steroids. And within 2 weeks of changing her food, the hives went away, and it had taken 2 years. 2 years, doctor after doctor and steroid after steroid. 2 weeks, they went away, and her life became new again. I've watched my own daughter lose 22 pounds in 6 weeks just from changing her food. I have watched my husband go from being suicidal, having a heart attack, literally full of rage, ready to just murder someone if he could, to turning into the kindest, most caring, loving, giving, nurturing, living for God man because he changed his food, because he changed what he drinks. I have a message so strong burning in my heart from what that pastor said. And you know why? Because I have the skills to pay the bills.
Right.
God gave me those skills.
Right.
I've studied. I've done the work. I have done the work. I know what it takes to get past this, and I'm not ashamed to say it anymore.
Right.
I know what it takes for healing. And if you want to sell a program and you want to sell 80-20, go for it. I'm not your person. I'm not selling you that program. You know what program I'm selling you? The Eternal Life program. I'm selling you can change your food and have a new life and not have to suffer for the rest of your life by being toxic.
Yeah, I think the thing that's interesting about the 80-20, the 90-10, these numbers, as we've talked about this a million times in the past, and I've gotten very statistical, is nobody actually follows that. Like 80-20 is usually closer to 60-40. 90-10 is usually closer to 70-30.
Right.
And that's way off. But here's the problem.
It is when you have disease.
What are you 30ing? What are you 10ing? Like if you're talking about like wanting to have 6-pack abs out on the beach, okay, and you're taking 10% off and your abs aren't quite as sharp, like, okay. Like if you're talking about an aesthetic change, but even still that 10%, what's it doing in your body?
If you're talking about having heart disease, diabetes, MS.
This is the point I'm getting to. I don't know many people that aren't talking about problems anymore.
Right.
They have a heart problem. They have MS. They have an autoimmune condition. They have blood sugar issues.
Thyroid
They're type 2 diabetic. Their hormones are in the tank. Their pituitary gland isn't working. They're having growth hormone issues. They're always tired. They're always in pain. Their joints hurt at the age of 20. It's like
eczema.
So when you're saying you deserve that piece of whatever, or you deserve your red wine every night, you have to have that to unwind. You got to ask yourself, like, okay, so the preacher that she's talking about, Pastor Brad Riley, said yesterday, like, if you say you can't go one day without Doritos, like you got to have those Doritos, you love those, like how in the world are you going to claim you're not addicted to that? If you're going to say you have to have your dark chocolate every night, it's just the one thing that keeps you sane on what you're eating. How in the world are you going to claim you're not addicted to that?
He also talked about the ingredients that they put in those foods
that make
are
you want
100% making you addicted to
Correct.
it. And that is where the fire comes from.
Correct.
That's where the desire and the fire comes from, to help heal and save someone from being bound.
Yes.
Being bound by that type of an addiction.
Yes.
It's a message you don't want to hear when you're stuck on those foods.
You need to go out and listen to Myron Golden. I bring him up all the time. He's
totally
amazing. But he talks about that food has been used as a secret weapon by Satan since the beginning of time.
So good.
It's the only thing besides asking Jesus to jump to his death or call down angels to save him that he tempts Jesus with. Food, turning stones into food. When the Israelites were looking for the promised land, they were provided all of the manna that they needed, which is it's suspected by historians to be basically like a hydrating Lara bar. It's going to give you the minerals, vitamins, nutrients you need, as well as the hydration to survive. So they were taken care of, but they were talking about wanting to go back to slavery because they missed the salted meats and the flavored foods. And then, he just continues to go on. I mean, look at the Garden of Eden. What was used? An apple. Is apple sin? Is bread sin? No. But what comes on the backside of it? Like what is happening in your body? What are you missing? Are you getting to live your life? That's what you actually get to deserve. Debbie talked about who I used to be and who I am, which thank you, by the way. But the thing about that is I got my life back. Like I get to live my life. And do you know what I work out for now? Do you know what I train for? To play with my grandkids. My daughter's 13. I don't have any grandkids. And I pray to God it's not for a while. But I want to play with them outside. I want to throw a football. I want to throw a baseball. That's what I'm training for. If I continued the way that I would have continued, I'd have died a decade ago.
Right.
And I wouldn't have got to have that. That's what you actually deserve.
We're fighting for this for you. It's what we do. IntegrityTrainingSystems.com or 636-299-2208 for more information on a 6-month nutrition program with myself or a free personal fitness assessment with any of our personal trainers. For gluten-free, dairy-free, healthy baked goods delivered to your door from my personal bakery, take a look at sophiesbakery.com. And for 100% grass-fed beef, the only meat that the Morris family will eat, and they have chicken, eggs, and turkey as well, take a look at fedfromthefarm.com.
Welcome back, everybody. This is John and Debbie Morris with Integrity Training Systems on Real Talk 93.3. If you've been with us for the whole show, we're glad that we didn't scare you away today because we're pretty fired up. And we're talking about using your gifts to heal. We're talking about what God's commanded us to do. We're talking about acknowledging what you're capable of, and while still walking in humility, that you are willing to acknowledge what God has given you the gifts of and apply them and acknowledge what you have done and what he has helped you to overcome to help people. And I just want to give you some verses that relate to being able to do what you're called to do. And in Romans 8:11, it says, "And if the spirit of him who raised Jesus from the dead is living in you, he who raised Christ from the dead will always give you life to your mortal bodies because of his spirit who lives in you." So when you're talking about commanding healing, there it is. It's there, okay? And if you command it and it doesn't come to fruition, God might be looking at and expecting something from you. What are you doing when you feel like God's leaving you hanging? Mm-hmm. Because God doesn't want to see us in pain. That was another thing Dr. Don Davis said is we're our kids, but he who does not discipline does not love. That's right. It's in the Bible as well. So if you're not being disciplined, if you're not in a position of growth, he's not looking at you in pain and liking it. He's looking at you in pain and liking who it's going to make you be.
And of course he has grace, but the reality of it is
we live in a fallen world. Right. It's tough.
Right.
There's bad stuff walking around.
That's right.
You know, like Pastor Brad said that yesterday. He's like, you know, do you ever get those people in church that are like, yeah, I know your son had cancer, but God had a plan. He took him before we were realized, but we don't. He's like, that is the dumbest thing you could say to someone that just lost their son to cancer. He's like, God didn't take him before his time. God knew his time, but cancer took him because cancer lives in our world because we live in a fallen world. Right. You know, so he's like, God didn't put that on him. You know, like, why was he not healed? Well, it's a fallen world. Why was the prayer not answered? I don't know. We'll have to ask him. Right. But he doesn't want you in that pain. But the question is, are you becoming who you're supposed to be in that? I use the bench press reference. You're supposed to be bench pressing 500 pounds. Are you under some load right now to get you strong enough to do that? Next verse, Ephesians 1:19-20. His incomparably great power for us who believe. That power is the same as the mighty strength he exerted when he raised Christ from the dead and seated him at the right hand in the heavenly realms. Okay? This is the spirit that's called to be inside of us. Okay, the next one, John 4:13. This is how we know that we live in him and he in us. He has given us of his spirit. The spirit is what Jesus gave credit to healing. Jesus didn't walk around saying, I'm healing you. Okay, Jesus said, my Father, the Holy Spirit, is healing you. He was the same conduit. He was equally God, equally man. He was giving us the same spirit when he left. You need to research that. The spirit of the Lord that Jesus said will come after him to be with us, okay? So when you're talking about healing, that's what he's calling us to do. And when you're talking about like the seed of faith, when you're talking about prayer and praying for someone to accept Christ, yes, that gets someone into heaven. Accepting Christ in your heart is what gets you into heaven, okay? He's the only way. He is the way, he's the truth, and the life. So like accepting that, that's how you get there. But here's what I want you to think about. What comes next? What are you doing with it? Like Pastor Brad said this yesterday. He goes, that's all well and good, but like, okay, why aren't we talking about when we get into church? Like, what are we doing? Like, are we catering to the atheist in church? Are we catering to trying to like get more people in the seats just to have more people in the seats? Or are we actually creating the kingdom and living for what Christ calls us to live for in the church so that we can go out and help people? That's what we're called to do. It's not about like, yes, we are to love everybody. We love everybody. I'm not saying you don't love on everybody, but you got to stand on what you believe in. And when you stand on what you believe in and you put forth the work that you're supposed to put forth, that's when things start to change. I just started a men's group. If you guys end up being interested in that, I don't care what your faith or fitness level is. We do it once a month on a Saturday. 4 p.m. is going to be a workout. 5 p.m. is a Bible study. We're getting ready to go through David. David was the most messed up dude in the Bible, and they call him a man after God's own heart, okay? So I don't care where you're at. You can accomplish this. Why am I bringing this up? Jordan Peterson talks about this when he relates to the Bible, and he says you should be dangerous. You should be dangerous. And so he's in an interview and the guy says, oh, so you mean I should be violent? He goes, no, you should be capable of it. And he said, men who have swords and keep them sheathed shall inherit the world. Now, I'm not just talking about men. I'm talking about women. And what he's saying is you need to be capable, not of just violence, but of standing for what you believe in. And when you don't fight somebody in the wrong spot, when you don't get offended and decide to just fight, but you also aren't so weak that you cower, because that's the next point he makes. He says, if you walk around and say you're peaceful, but you're not actually capable of violence, you're not peaceful, you're just weak. You don't get to claim the virtue of peace when you don't even have it in you to fight that battle. Okay, I'm not just talking about war, though. If you're not willing to stand on what you believe, you don't get to call yourself peaceful. You don't get to call yourself all loving. You're just weak. So you got to figure out what you believe in, and you got to stand for that. And you have to use the gifts that you've been given to accomplish tasks. Like, don't shy away. Don't back down. Don't be scared to say what you're called to say. Don't be scared to do what you're called to do. And don't be scared to give 100% to what you're supposed to give 100% to. The Bible says in Ecclesiastes 9:10, whatsoever thy hand findeth to do, do so with all your might, because there is no rest nor work in the grave whither thou goest. Okay. So like when you die, everything that you could have gone and done on this earth is gone. Now, if you're a Christian, you're going to heaven to be with the Heavenly Father. Fantastic. But like, what did you leave undone? Are you going to lay in your deathbed and say, man, I wish I had scrolled more Twitter? Are you going to lay in your deathbed and say, man, I wish I had watched more stupid YouTube videos? Like, what are you missing right now? Dopamine is just attainable everywhere. Dopamine is the greatest drug in the world. God gave us neurology because it's designed to cause us to do things to be successful. He gave us dopamine. Dopamine is in our body. It is produced by our brain so that we can feel joy, experience, and almost have a euphoria of accomplishment. If you go do jujitsu and you get really good at jujitsu and you tap your friend out, there's euphoria in that because I've trained for this moment. I've worked hard for this moment. But guess what? On the way to that choke, you've gotten choked out. You've gotten tired. Maybe you vomited from how hard of work there is, okay? But I've built a skill set that is applicable. I have obtained something. I've learned discipline. I've learned hard work. I've learned grit. So at the end of that work is my dopamine response. Here's the problem. Our entire world is sitting on the couch, scrolling, getting the same neurological response. Dopamine, 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 dopamine. And it only takes 3 seconds to watch a video. If you don't like the video, scroll to the next one. While you're scrolling, dopamine. I might like this next video. Dopamine, dopamine. If you can get that same response sitting on your couch that it takes years of honing a craft to go get, you're not going to hone the craft. And guess what's happening? Our world is getting dumber. People are getting hung up and things aren't being accomplished and we're losing skill sets. It's the work of the enemy and you're called for something greater. So whatever you're being hindered by, whatever garbage you're about to shove in your mouth thinking I have to eat this, you're wrong. You deserve to have life. You deserve to have purpose. You need to go out and just chase it.
And I mean, what type of a temple are you expecting that spirit to live in? And how can you get growth from that spirit that is living inside you? How can you truly hear from it optimally if it's living inside a toxic environment, one that's just corroded and not allowing the true, sincere growth that you get from living according to the Holy Spirit? You've got to be clear. You've got to be sharp. Your mind needs the clean food.
That's the main thing that goes on me. You know, like of course I can gain weight if I'm eating the wrong things, but it's my mind. I get dull. I get hazy. I start like wondering why I'm even doing what I'm doing. I start not wanting to get out of bed.
Which is exactly what the enemy would want for you.
Right. And how many of you are going through that?
I started smiling in the middle of this segment because I'm like watching you and listening to the things you're saying. And I'm like, praise God.
It's like, how many of you are walking around anxious and depressed right now? Like, I'm not trying to take away from the reality of anxiety and depression. Like, I've been diagnosed at one point as bipolar. I've dealt with anxiety. I've dealt with depression. Deb said, I've dealt with suicidal thoughts. Okay. So I don't claim any of that. I don't claim any of that because guess what? Almost all of that was developed by what I was consuming. And if I stay away from that stuff, I'm not going to say I don't get anxious. I'm not going to say I don't get down, but that like bury you depression and that like bury you anxiety, maybe you have that because of what you're eating. You need to look into it.
And what you're drinking. And It can really change when you make changes in those areas. For more information on what we do at Integrity Training Systems with our 6-month nutrition program or a free personal fitness assessment with any of our personal trainers, give us a call at 636-299-2208 or take a look at integritytrainingsystems.com. For 100% grass-fed beef, the only meat that the Morris family will eat, take a look at fedfromthefarm.com. And for gluten-free, dairy-free, healthy baked goods delivered to your door, take a look at sophiesbakery.com. Thank you so much for listening, and God bless.